Sometimes the strongest way to get noticed again is not to say more, but to become less available to the old pattern. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, and start carrying yourself with quiet confidence, people begin to experience your absence differently. In this speech, we'll explore 3 silent moves that can shift the dynamic without manipulation or games. These moves are about self-respect, emotional control, and becoming someone whose presence naturally creates curiosity and attention. One of the most powerful silent moves you can make is to stop over-explaining yourself. There comes a point where explaining more does not create more understanding. It only makes you look like you are desperately trying to prove your intentions. When you constantly feel the need to explain why you did something, why you said something, why you were unavailable, or why you reacted a certain way, you slowly give another person too much control over your emotional state. You begin acting as though their approval is necessary for you to feel secure about your own choices. But confidence does not work that way. A confident person can communicate clearly, take responsibility when necessary, and then allow the other person to form their own opinion without chasing them for acceptance. Think about what happens when someone becomes distant and your first reaction is to send another message asking what happened. Then you explain yourself. Then you send another clarification because you are afraid the first explanation was misunderstood. Before you realize it, you are carrying the entire emotional weight of the interaction. You are trying to fix something that may not even be yours to fix. Instead, learn to pause. Give situations room to breathe. If something genuinely needs to be discussed, discuss it calmly and directly. But if you have already expressed yourself clearly, you do not need to keep returning to the same conversation simply because you are uncomfortable with uncertainty. This does not mean becoming cold, arrogant, or emotionally unavailable. It means understanding the difference between communication and seeking validation. Communication says, "This is how I feel and I want to be honest with you." Validation seeking says, "Please understand me, please reassure me, please tell me that everything is okay." The first comes from self-awareness. The second often comes from fear. When you stop over-explaining, you begin developing the ability to tolerate that fear without immediately acting on it. Your actions can also become more powerful when you stop trying to explain them. If you are becoming more focused on your goals, you do not need to make an announcement about it. If you are setting healthier boundaries, you do not need to write a long speech about why. If you are becoming less reactive, you do not need to tell anyone that you are now emotionally mature. Simply behave differently. Let consistency speak for you. And this is where your presence can begin to feel different. Instead of reacting to every change in attention, you remain composed. Instead of trying to convince someone of your value, you focus on living according to your values. Instead of desperately trying to remove every misunderstanding, you become comfortable knowing that not everyone will understand you immediately, and you no longer feel compelled to turn every silence into another explanation. The second silent move is to become quietly unavailable to distraction. This does not mean disappearing to make her worry, pretending to be busy, or deliberately ignoring someone to create a reaction. It means something much deeper. You stop organizing your life around whether she notices you. When your attention is constantly fixed on another person, your own life slowly becomes secondary. You start checking your phone repeatedly, wondering why she has not replied, thinking about what she might be doing, analyzing every small interaction, and searching for signs that she still cares. Without realizing it, you give away your peace to someone who may not even know how much mental space they occupy. The shift begins when you take that attention back. You start putting your energy into your work, your goals, your friendships, your personal growth, and the things that make you feel alive. You stop waiting for a message before deciding whether your day is going well. You stop checking whether she has viewed something before feeling good about yourself. You stop creating situations just to get her attention. Instead, you become genuinely engaged with your own life. That is very different from pretending to be unavailable. Pretending is a performance. Real independence is a lifestyle. When you are genuinely focused on your own direction, your behavior naturally changes. You become less reactive. You do not feel the same pressure to respond instantly to everything. You can have a conversation without desperately trying to keep it going. You can enjoy someone's presence without becoming dependent on it. You can care about someone while still understanding that your entire emotional world cannot revolve around them. That balance creates a quiet confidence because you are no longer trying to obtain attention at any cost. And sometimes that is exactly when someone begins noticing you differently. Not because you disappeared as a strategy, but because your energy has changed. The person who was once constantly available may suddenly have responsibilities, interests, ambitions, and priorities that exist beyond the relationship. There is a natural difference between someone who is chasing attention and someone who is simply living their life. The second person does not need to announce their independence. It can be felt through their behavior. You also become more interesting when your life contains substance beyond romantic attention. Develop your skills, take care of your responsibilities, spend time with people who genuinely value you, work toward goals that matter to you, build routines that make you proud, learn something new, become physically and mentally stronger. The more meaningful your life becomes, the less temptation you have to constantly monitor someone else's behavior. Your focus moves from, why isn't she noticing me, to, what am I building with my life? The most important part is that you do not use your new independence as another method of manipulation. Do not post things just to make her jealous. Do not intentionally leave messages unanswered to create anxiety. Do not involve other people simply to provoke curiosity. Those actions may look confident from the outside, but they reveal that your attention is still centered on her. Real confidence is when you no longer need to manufacture a reaction because your life has become important enough to hold your attention on its own. The third silent move is to let your actions become more powerful than your words. Anyone can say that they have changed. Anyone can promise to become more confident, more disciplined, more emotionally stable, or more focused. But words are easy, patterns are harder. When someone has seen the same behavior from you repeatedly, another explanation will rarely change their perception. What can change their perception is consistency. When your behavior begins telling a different story, people have no choice but to notice that something about you has shifted. Think about how powerful it is when you stop announcing your intentions and simply start living them. If you say you are focusing on yourself, then actually focus on yourself. If you say you are becoming more disciplined, let your daily routine prove it. If you say you respect your own boundaries, stop crossing those boundaries whenever you are afraid of losing someone's attention. You do not need to tell everyone that you are becoming stronger. Let the way you respond to difficult situations demonstrate that strength for you. This becomes especially important when emotions are involved. Maybe before, whenever she became distant, you immediately reacted. You sent multiple messages, asked for reassurance, tried to explain yourself, or became frustrated because you did not understand what was happening. Now imagine responding differently. You notice the distance, but you do not panic. You give the situation space. You continue with your responsibilities. If communication is necessary, you communicate clearly and respectfully. You do not turn uncertainty into desperation. That small behavioral difference can reveal a major internal transformation. The goal is not to become cold or emotionless. Emotional strength does not mean pretending you do not care. It means caring without losing yourself. You can have feelings and still maintain boundaries. You can miss someone and still continue living your life. You can want someone to be part of your future without making their attention the foundation of your self-worth. That kind of balance cannot be convincingly created through words alone. It becomes visible through your choices. When your actions become consistent, people begin to experience you differently. Instead of hearing another promise about how you will change, they actually see the change. Instead of hearing that you are confident, they notice that you no longer react to every small shift in attention. Instead of hearing that you respect yourself, they observe that you no longer accept behavior that repeatedly makes you feel small. Instead of hearing that you have goals, they see you becoming increasingly committed to them. And this is where your presence can become more noticeable without you trying to force it. You are not chasing recognition. You are not trying to create jealousy. You are not performing a new personality. You are simply becoming more aligned with the person you want to be. Your words become fewer because your behavior is saying enough. Your confidence becomes quieter because you no longer need to convince anyone that you have value. Your consistency becomes the message, and every decision you make begins reinforcing the person you are becoming. The fourth silent move is to replace emotional reactivity with calm presence. This is one of the hardest changes to make because emotions can become extremely loud when you care about someone. A delayed response can suddenly feel like rejection. A change in tone can make you question everything. A little distance can create 100 different stories inside your mind. But not every change requires an immediate reaction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is create space between what happens and what you choose to do about it. When she becomes distant, your first instinct might be to ask what is wrong, send another message, or try to immediately repair the connection. But before you react, pause. Ask yourself whether you actually know what is happening or whether your mind is filling in the blanks. You do not have to turn uncertainty into a crisis. Someone can be quiet for many reasons, and not every reason is connected to your worth. When you learn to sit with uncertainty without immediately trying to control it, you become emotionally stronger. Calm presence does not mean ignoring your feelings. It means acknowledging them without allowing them to control your behavior. You can feel disappointed and still remain respectful. You can feel nervous and still communicate clearly. You can miss someone and still avoid chasing them. You can care deeply and still understand that another person's behavior does not determine your value. This is emotional control, not emotional suppression. Imagine how different your presence becomes when you stop reacting to every small change. Instead of immediately becoming cold because she was distant, you remain composed. Instead of becoming overly excited because she suddenly gives you attention, you stay grounded. Instead of changing your entire mood based on one conversation, you continue living your day. You are no longer moving emotionally from one extreme to another, depending on what someone else does. There is stability in you. That stability can make your interactions healthier because you are no longer communicating from fear. When people communicate from fear, they often say too much, demand reassurance, create unnecessary arguments, or make decisions they later regret. Calmness gives you the opportunity to choose your words carefully. It allows you to ask yourself, is this really something I need to respond to, or am I simply uncomfortable with not knowing? That question alone can prevent countless unnecessary reactions. You also begin to understand that silence does not always need to be filled. Sometimes you can allow a conversation to end naturally. Sometimes you can let someone have their space without interpreting it as an insult. Sometimes you can step back without making an announcement about stepping back. Your confidence becomes visible because you are no longer desperate to control every outcome. The most important thing is to remain authentic. Do not use calmness as another manipulation tactic. Do not pretend not to care simply because you want someone to chase you. Become calm because your peace matters. Let your emotions exist without allowing them to dictate every decision. When your inner world becomes more stable, your presence becomes more grounded, your communication becomes more mature, and your attention becomes something you give thoughtfully rather than something you surrender whenever uncertainty appears. The fifth silent move is to give her something real to notice. Not a performance, not a carefully planned attempt to make her jealous, and not a temporary change designed to get a reaction. Real change begins when you stop asking, how can I make her notice me? And start asking, what kind of person am I becoming? That question shifts your entire focus. Instead of trying to control her attention, you begin building a life that naturally reflects confidence, discipline, purpose, and self-respect. If you want someone to notice a difference in you, let that difference be genuine. Improve the areas of your life that you may have neglected. Take your responsibilities seriously. Work toward meaningful goals. Develop your skills. Become more consistent with the things you say matter to you. Strengthen your friendships. Take care of yourself. Learn to enjoy your own company. When you become genuinely invested in your own growth, you stop needing to constantly prove that you have changed because your daily behavior begins showing it for you. There is a major difference between trying to look valuable and actually becoming valuable in your own eyes. Trying to look valuable often involves posting things for attention, creating jealousy, pretending to be unavailable, or carefully displaying a lifestyle simply because you hope someone is watching. But genuine growth does not need an audience. You can work quietly when nobody is paying attention. You can improve privately before anyone recognizes the difference. You can build discipline without announcing every step. That is where real confidence begins to develop. And when your life starts changing, your energy changes with it. You become less focused on whether she replied and more focused on what you need to accomplish. You stop checking constantly to see whether she noticed your absence. You stop creating excuses to appear in her world. Your attention becomes centered on your own direction. You become more present in conversations because you are no longer mentally calculating whether every interaction will lead somewhere. You can appreciate someone without making them responsible for your happiness. If she notices that change, let her notice it naturally. Do not point it out. Do not say, look how much I have changed. Do not try to make her regret anything. When growth is real, it does not need a sales pitch. Your calmness, your consistency, your confidence, and your priorities will communicate far more than a long explanation ever could. Most importantly, make sure your transformation does not depend on whether she comes back. If she notices you again, you should still be moving forward. If she becomes interested again, you should still maintain your standards. If she remains distant, you should still continue building the life you want. That is what makes the change meaningful. You are no longer improving yourself as a strategy to win someone's attention. You are improving because you have realized that your life deserves your full attention. The strongest version of you is not the person who finally gets noticed. It is the person who becomes so grounded in his own direction that being noticed is no longer the measure of his worth. Your growth becomes the message. Your consistency becomes the evidence. Your peace becomes part of your presence. And instead of trying to force someone to see your value, you begin living in a way that makes your own value undeniable to yourself.